Hi, I'm Kira, an author of double rake loom knitting books. Today I'm demonstrating how to knit the Stockinette brioche stitch on double rake loom. Stockinette brioche is very versatile. It's easy to knit, it's great for color knitting, for creating two-color double-sided fabrics, it knits quickly, and it's a great medium for knitting cross-stitch cables. And you can create gorgeous color plays between the raised ribs, the easy-to-knit cables, and the recessed slip stitches that are visible from the front side of the fabric. However, it's difficult to maintain even gauge, especially in your first and last stitch. Brioche knitting uses tuck stitches, which slips loops from multiple rows onto a stitch. Using needles, this is an advanced technique, but on the double rake loom, it's relatively easy to do. On the double rake loom, brioche knitting is accomplished by creating a loop difference between the rakes and then adding a row of stockinette brioche. Now I'm going to demonstrate how you create a loop difference between the rakes. First, we're going to cast on. And then we're going to weave a row of stockinette stitches. I'm just going to make a small sample to show you how. We're going to add an anchor. I like to use an anchor stick because it gives you a cleaner edge. Then you add another row of stockinette. And knit off loop pairs on the back rake. We've created a stitch difference between the rakes. On the back rake you only have one loop on each peg, and on the front rake you have two loops on each peg. Now we're going to add our second yarn. I'm going to attach my second yarn strand to the same peg as my first yarn strand. And I'm going to weave a row of stockinette. Now I have two loops on each peg on the back rake and three loops on each peg on the front rake. On the front rake, I'm going to knit off the bottom two loops over each top loop. Push my yarn down between the rakes. Now I've completed one row of stockinette brioche. One row of stockinette brioche stitches means you've added a row of stitches to both the front rake and the back rake. After knitting your first row of stitches, in each subsequent row you need to twist your yarn strands. This will help form an even edge and maintain a consistent gauge. Cross my yarn strands. Put my crossed yarn strand on one peg to the left of my first peg. Make the tension on this first loop not too tight, but also kind of not loose. Try and keep it as the other loops. To help prevent tight stitches, I'd recommend knitting off your first two stitches, your last two stitches, and then after every 10 or 15 pegs, knitting off another two stitches. This will help distribute the yarn more evenly. This
This is especially important when you're knitting a wide fabric. And here are photos of the swatch. If I'd used a heavier weight yarn, then there wouldn't be any space between the columns of stitches.